Hello, Math 96. Today's November 9th. So there's a couple different things we're going to be doing today. First of all, I need you to cross out page 30 of your notebook for substitution method. We're not going to be doing that method this year. We are going to be doing the elimination method on page 31 of your notebook. If at the top of page 31, you could write down the essential question. How do we find both the x and y using elimination? And at the end of this lesson, you should be able to say that you can find the answer to a system by combining two equations. In order to isolate a variable, plug that variable in to find the other variable, because we need to find both x and y. You do have homework tonight. It's out of textbook page 164, number 27 to 30, and that appears at the end of this video. Okay, so if you can fill in your notes on the top of page 31. So you're going to write the equations in standard form, ax plus by equals c. So that just means you write the x, the y, the equals, and then a constant number at the end. If you need to multiply one or both of the equations to make the coefficients opposites. And opposites are just the same number with different signs, right? Okay, we're going to start at step 3 today when we do our problems. We're going to add the two equations together. We're going to solve for the first variable, and we're going to take that answer, plug in the answer from step 4. We're going to take that answer and solve for the remaining variable. So what does that mean? Solve for the first variable, then solve for the remaining variable. Remember, we're finding now the value of x and y, and we've already found that by graphing, right? So last week was all about graphing and telling me where the two lines cross. Well, we're still looking for this final answer. We're just not graphing it. We're finding it another way, and the method is called elimination. Before we move on, I want to just focus your attention, and you don't need to write this. I just want you to think like this today. So, I don't know, 135 plus 220, I don't know, 224. This is the way I want you to think today. I want you to think this way, okay? So 5 and 4 is 9, 3 and 2 is 5, 1 and 2 is 3. So I want you to think up and down old-fashioned math, okay? Up and down, adding and subtracting, all right? And that's the way we're thinking. So when we do the problems, you're just going to think old-fashioned, add and subtract, all right? Okay. So we're going to use these 4 problems as the examples for today's lesson. So I don't have a really easy lesson in the notebook, so we're going to make one. So I want you to write out these 4 examples onto your blank page on page 41, please. So if you can take a minute to write out on the blank page in your notebook, page 41, if you can write out these 4 problems. Now, if you don't prefer to do that, there is a file in Google Classroom. If you want to print this worksheet out, you're more than welcome to do that. But on your blank page of 41, I need you to write out these 4 problems, leave space in between the problems. You probably need a good 2 inches or so in between each problem. So make sure you space them out across the whole page. And then when you're done, can you come back to this video so that we can do these problems together? So hit pause, please. Write these out on page 41 of your notebook. Hit pause and then come back, please. Okay, so like I said, we're going to go ahead and get started here. So this is number 1. So the problems are already written in ax plus by equals c form. And you can see that because it's the x's, the y's equals the numbers, right? So everything is lined up. So that's important. When you line them up, I need you, for here on out, I always need you to fill in your hidden ones. It's so important. It will eliminate so many errors. So fill in any missing hidden ones. So fill in a hidden one. We don't have to do step 2 because I'm making this an easier lesson. We're going to start at step 3. So we're going to do this, like I said, with the old-fashioned up-down add and subtract. So you're going to draw a line, just like I said before, and you're just going to think up and down, add and subtract. So how much is negative 10x plus 1x? That would be negative 9x. How much is 3y minus 3y? Well, that cancels to 0, doesn't it? Put the equal sign in. And how much, think up and down, is 15 plus 12? That's 27. Okay, so remember, we're solving this by elimination. Did we eliminate something? Yes, we eliminated the y variable. So right now, we're going to solve for the first variable. The first variable we're going to solve for is x. And so we're almost there. So we're going to divide by negative 9. Cancels. So your x will equal 27 divided by negative 9 is negative 3. And for our final answer, so far, we have the x amount. So remember, our final answer has to have both the x and the y. So we have to find the y. So there's 2 steps here, right? Okay, so how do we find the y? It says the next step right here, plug in the answer that you just got in step 4. So that's right here, plug it in and solve for the remaining variable. Well, where do you plug it in? So you plug in the negative 3 into either original equation. And it doesn't matter which one that you pick. So I personally would tend to pick anything that has less negatives and smaller numbers, just because it's easier. So we're going to plug in the negative 3 into either of the original equations. You only have to do it once. Most students tend to pick the top one, and so we'll do that. So negative 10x plus 3y equals 15. And so we're going to plug in this negative 3 in for the x, right? So right here, make sure you plug it in for the right one. Sometimes we tend to plug it in the wrong one. So negative 10 times that negative 3 plus 3y equals 15. I'm just going to pick up my green pen here so I can color code for you. So the negative 3 gets plugged in. So that would produce negative 10 times negative 3 is a positive 30 plus 3y equals 15. And now we just need to solve for y. So basically we eliminated the y's and we solved. We got an answer for x. Now we're going to take x and plug it back into one of those, right? And we're going to solve for y and we'll have our answer. Okay, so you should know how to solve the rest of this. So you're going to pop the 30 over, right? So 3y will equal 15 minus 30 is negative 15. If you're not so great with your signs, you might want to always use a calculator there. You'll just go 15 minus 30, enter. Divide by 3. So your y value is negative 15 divided by 3 is negative 5. So we got our other answer. So we're going to march that up here. So our final answer is negative 3, negative 5. And that's where those 2 lines cross. It just so happens that we found where those two lines cross, not by graphing, but by using algebra. And the method is called elimination. Okay, let's try another one. You can hit pause here if you need more time. Okay, again, everything is written with the X's and the Y's and the numbers lined up. We're not doing this step today, number 2, where we have to multiply things. We're going to start at step 3 and we're going to think straight up and down, like I said at the beginning. So 8x minus 8x, we eliminated, right? So add up and down. So this is 5y minus 2y, that's 3y. Go down equals 20 plus 10 is 30. Divide by 3, or just, you should already know that that's 10, right? 30 divided by 3. Or 3 times what gives 30, right? Okay, so we're working on our final answer. Remember, it has to be x comma y. Now be careful. I'm going to put x comma y up here. Be careful, this time you solved for the y first. So be careful that you actually put that in the y slot. And when you're taking the ASVAB testing, or if you're doing college testing, be careful that they don't try and switch it up if you just put it in the wrong spot. So we have the y, we need the x. So how do we find the x? So you take this equation and you plug it back in. Y equals 10 into either equation, either original. Doesn't matter which one. No matter which one you pick, you'll get the same X amount. It makes no difference at all. You just pick one of them. And like I said, most students really do pick the top one, so we'll just stick with that method. So 8x minus 2y equals 20. So we're going to use this one. And we're going to plug back in y equals 10. So that's going to go right in there, right? Make sure you plug it in for the y amount, not the x. All right. I'm going to put parentheses there, and I'm going to come back and put that in a different color just to color code. So 10. So that's what we plugged in for. Y is 10, right? Okay, and then you just do the math. So 8x, 2 times 10 is 20, equals 20. Then you should just solve. So you draw the line. You have to pop that over so it's plus 20 to both sides. This cancels. So 8x equals 40, because 20 plus 20 is 40. 8 times what is 40? You should know the answer is 5. Or you can just divide by 8. So x equals 5. And that's what we're going to march up right here, because we found the other part of the coordinate. Remember, you're finding where two lines cross. So these lines cross at over 5 up 10. And that's where the answer is. We just found it a different way. Okay? Just remember to put your two answers together as one point, because that's your final answer. And use parentheses, okay? All right, let's do 2 more. So again, fill in your hidden ones. I know you may think that's silly, but when we get to the harder problems, it can make all the difference. So fill in hidden ones. So we're going to draw our line and think up and down, up and down. So 9x minus 5x, just consider that subtraction. 9x minus 5x is 4x. 1y minus 1y cancels. Bring down equals. 20 minus 8 is 12. So you should know the answer is x equals 3, because 4 times what gives 12, right? Or you can divide by 4 if you want. Okay, so we're getting started on our final answer. So far we have x is 3, so we need to find out how much is the y. So we're going to take that and plug it back into one of the equations. And we'll plug it into the top one. 9x plus 1y equals 20. That's a better equation because you want to avoid this negative 1y because that would require more math. So we're going to plug in right here a 3 for that x. So right here we plugged in x is 3. So 9 times 3 is 27 plus 1y equals 20. We need to solve, so we need to pop this over, so minus 27 to both sides. So that's 0, so y equals 20 minus 27 is negative 7. So there's our final answer, negative 7. Okay, oops. Well, I think you can still see that. There's your final answer. All right, one more. And again, please fill in your hidden ones. Please don't think that's silly because I know what's coming later on. So having that habit now is helpful. Fill in your hidden ones. Okay, so we're going to draw our line, things straight up and down. 1x minus 1x is 0. Negative 6y's minus 8y's is negative 14y's. And you can think, read this upwards. 4 minus 4 is 0. So negative 14 times what number gives 0? Negative 14 times what would give you 0? It'd have to be a 0. So you divide by negative 14 if you want to show, if you want to show that. If you put 0 over negative 14 into a calculator, it'll give you 0. And it's okay, 0 is a number. So don't be bothered by the fact that you have a 0. So remember, we're finding x and y, and so far we just found y, so put it in the right slot. It's in the y slot. And we're going to take that and plug it back in. So you're going to plug 0 into either original equation. It doesn't matter, and 0 is easy to work with. So again, we'll just pick the top one because that's what most students do. So 1x minus 6 times 0, because the y is 0, right? So I'll plug that in, equals negative 4. Sorry, I didn't write down the original equation. So here we plugged in y is worth 0. Just do the math. So this would be 1x equals, because this would just be 0, right? I mean, if you want to put minus 0, 6 times 0 is 0. It's negative 4. It's a little silly because 0 is just gone. And there's your answer. 0 is 0. So x equals negative 4. Okay, so there's our final answer. So your homework is just like this, and like I said there, it's out of the textbook, and it's just like this. And I think there's 4 problems if I remember right. Okay, so there's today's homework if you want to hit pause so you can copy them down. There are no fraction answers. So if you get a fraction, you did something wrong in the math. Okay, so there you go. I noticed that they put little commas on here. Let's see. This little those are silly. Those are just little commas you can ignore. Don't let that bother you. Okay. All righty. See you tomorrow.